Happy Sunday. This is Pastor Bunny of Elevate Church DC. Welcome to Keeping It Real. Tonight we're talking about mindset, and our moderator for tonight is Reverend Eva Marie Ojo. Hi, Reverend Ojo.
Thank you so much for that very enthusiastic welcome. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us today. We look forward just to having another very heartfelt conversation with our panelists. And so let's just jump right in. Let's just go ahead and meet our panelists. So before we begin, I would like for our panelists just to kind of introduce themselves. Please state your name, what you represent, and also whether or not you're an introvert or an extrovert.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dominic Jackson. I am a millennial, and I'm kind of like in between. So I'm an introvert.
Thank you, Dom. Reese.
I am Reese, and I am a Gen X, and I'm kind of introverted until I get to know you, and then I'm extroverted.
Okay. I'm Bunny, and I am a magnificent baby boomer. You all knew I was going to say that. Say something good about baby boomers. And I'm an introvert.
Hi, I'm Isaiah. I'm a millennial, and I mean, it's obvious, I'm an extrovert.
It is obvious. You're definitely our resident extrovert. I am between the Gen X millennial. I'm on that cusp, and I am as introverted as they come. So Isaiah, you and I are like holding up the opposite ends there. Let's go ahead and jump into today's conversation. So the question is, what can the church do to help people who are struggling mentally and emotionally? That's kind of why we asked this question about whether or not you're an introvert or an extrovert. I do feel like whether you find that charge from being around people probably dictates what you see is a need, and probably dictates some of those mental and emotional struggles that you might see, or that you might see in the people around you. And so what we'll do is we'll just kind of go through and give everyone a chance to respond to that question. And so let's just go ahead and get it kicked off. Isaiah, since you're the resident extrovert, you probably don't need as much time to think. You probably already have an answer. So, sir, what can the church do to help people who are struggling mentally and emotionally right now in this season with everything that is going on?
Two things. The first thing that we can do as the church, we can actually open up and begin to realize in ourselves that, yes, we are struggling too as well. That's the first thing. Because once we can get to that point where we can say, listen, I'm dealing with this too. You know, I was delivered from this. Okay, yes, we get that. You were delivered from something, but you're still struggling with something now. Nobody is perfect. So once we get to that point and we can open up and we can talk freely about it, then we can help them with whatever problem they're dealing with. Because what we're dealing with now and how we're dealing with it, as to oppose the way that they're dealing with it, the advantage that we have in the church is that we're dealing with it with the name of Jesus on our side. So we can definitely help them out with that. We can say, I'm dealing with it this way. And we can give them our struggles as well, because then they can relate. Once they see that they can relate to us, they can say, wow, I can really talk to this person. I can see where they're coming from on this. Maybe I can get in a little more. The more we open up with ourselves about where we are, the more we can help them out.
I hear you, sir. I definitely hear you. I agree. There's definitely need for some transparency. Reese, would you like to add to that, or what else? How do you see the church helping people who are struggling mentally and emotionally?
Now, just to kind of piggyback off of what Isaiah said, we have to be open. We have to be transparent. I feel like a lot of times, especially when you're talking to someone who may not be a Christian, especially, they think, oh, you're perfect. You have Jesus, you have it all together. So it's super important to be transparent, so that other people can see I don't have it together. I just have a rock underneath my feet. So I think that's super important.
Thank you. Dom?
I definitely agree with both Reese and Isaiah. You have to be upfront. You got to be upfront and say, hey, I have a problem too. And it may be the same problem once you actually open up and say, hey, I got a problem. So it may be the exact same problem, and the two can help each other out in terms of getting through that issue. Especially now, like with this pandemic going on, it's a lot of people who are going literally crazy because they can't go out. They can't see their families if they're far away. So if we as a church admit our faults and admit our flaws, we can help the next person who doesn't believe, or even another believer who has fallen short or are weighing, and this pandemic is like weighing down on them. Because I know for me, like being alone at home, like I just work. I work, go to the grocery store. I try to go see my grandmother when I can, get sprayed down with Lysol. For the most part, like my mind is constantly going about when is it going to end? When is it going to end? When is it going to end? But with Jesus on our side, everything's going to be all right. So I know that I'm still grounded. I'm still here. I'm still breathing. I wake up every morning with the grace of God. So if we just come to the realization of our truth, we can help another person through.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I imagine she really is spraying you down with Lysol. Good of her. Pastor Bunny, what answer do you have?
Well, I can tell you as an introvert, I thought I was going to be okay because I love being, I can stay inside and all that. Right now, I am losing it. I really, I want to be able to go out. I can't go out. I have opportunity to travel. Can't do that because I don't know what's going to happen. I might get somewhere and they may quarantine me for 2 weeks, and then I can't afford that. So right now, I think what happens a lot of times is we don't want to be vulnerable, and so we don't share exactly where we are. And I think we do a disservice to ourselves as well as others by not sharing where we are in the struggle that a lot of us are in. People are mentally and emotionally drained, exhausted, and that just takes you to a point where you could go over the edge. And so I think the church can find a way or outlet for people to be able to talk, or even help people to get to somebody who is a professional to talk with them. Because being bottled up and not having too many options make people do things that they really shouldn't do. And the church needs to step up and be the light that people need to see. I'd really like to see the churches come together and say, "Hey, we're here. Here's some some hotlines for you to call to just talk to people anytime. Here's somebody who's willing to do it any time of the night. Here's some Zoom, discussions where you can come together and just enjoy each other's company." But I really would think that the church needs to step up and be a light to the people as we're going through this struggle. It's been a long struggle. A lot of things have happened, not just the pandemic, but the racial inequality. And so all this is just jumping on top of people. And I think we really need to give people outlets to get their voices out there, whether it's screaming and yelling, whatever they need to do, let them have a place that they can go.
Thank you for that. So one of the things I was thinking is, as each of you are answering, because all of you just really seem to echo each other, even coming from different generations, you all were kind of saying the same thing, that the church needs to increase transparency. And I feel like that is something that may not have necessarily always have been taught or necessarily always have been a priority. My question for you is, do you think that one of the issues that prevents the church from being more transparent is maybe that the church hasn't always dealt well or equally with emotional and mental health? And if you do think that is a case or a situation, what can the church do better to address and to normalize mental health as well as emotional health? I'm going to give y'all a minute to think about that one. And whoever wants to go first can. Reese, I see a smile on you. I don't know if you want to jump in there.
Yeah, I think that, so also I'm a registered nurse. So from a healthcare standpoint, we have to make it not seem like such a stigma, and you know, people are embarrassed by it, and it's not anything to be embarrassed by. So I see that all the time in my daily work too. So, you know, we need to be better about making it, you know, I hear men say, I shouldn't be depressed. I'm a man. That's not manly of me. And we need to do better about helping people to understand that we're humans and things like that happen. It's really hard to put it into words.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. What you're saying is definitely, I feel like what you're saying is one way the church can do better is by changing the language, maybe is kind of what I hear you saying. Like, don't,
Yes.
Okay, changing the language, changing the way we speak about it to begin with.
Right, right.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Pastor Bunny, your face contorted in all kinds of ways when I was talking. Go ahead.
No, I think Reese has a point, is that we put so many stigmas on mental health, and it, you know, people think, well, even in getting help, you know, if you say, why don't you get somebody to talk to us, like, I'm not like that, I'm not crazy. And it's not that, it's that our emotional strength is being challenged right now. Our mental strength is being challenged right now. And we're not always up here. We have ups and downs in our lives. And so people have to realize that, have taken the opportunity to voice what's going on is helpful and free. That we have to take that label. It's a big label on mental health, that a negative label that people can't seem to get over. And maybe the church needs to say, hey, people, we all go through struggles. We all have difficulties, whether we're Christians or not. We all go through it. Let's go through it together. That's fine way to make it all of us. Whether it's getting a professional to talk to, or a minister to talk to, or a friend to talk to, we need to be able to say, "Hey, I'm not doing okay, and I need to talk to somebody." So something's got to happen. We keep seeing more and more suicides happening, and it's because people are not willing to say, this stigma, I want to get the help that I need, because I want to do best for me. Whoops. Uh-oh.
You're still with us. But you're on mute, but you're still with us.
Okay. It's giving. Can you hear? Okay. I have something on my screen that says that my speaker's not working, so that's what happened. But we have to let go of that stigma and be able to step forward.
Dom, Isaiah.
I would say the church needs to change its perception of mental health, because they label mental health as crazy. They label mental health as psycho or other things of that sort. And I would say most people in the church have mental health issues. And I say that because of the fact that they're dealing with trying to hold up the bloodstained banner instead of really realizing that life is life, that we go through life on a regular basis. So if you pray, if you do everything that you're supposed to do as a Christian, that you won't have a mental health issue. That's not so much the case, because you can do from Genesis to Revelations, but you can still go through a crazy moment. So I think we need to change the perception of it. We need to change the wordage. We need to change our actions towards it. We need to change how we view people as it. We need to change, like, it's okay to be crazy. It's not crazy, but I mean, it's okay to be to have mental issues. It's okay that as long as you know how to help that person or help yourself. Like you may be dealing with something that you just don't know how to deal with. There are professionals out here that get paid for it and are licensed to help you through it. So it's not a sin to get help. It's a sin if you don't address it. And I believe that if we as a church come together and realize that, hey, everybody's human, everybody makes mistakes, everybody has those moments where we have the potential to go on the loose end of things. I think a lot of people will understand that, hey, and a lot of the outsiders, as we say, will be comfortable enough to come into the church and say, hey, I have this issue. Can you help me? But if we don't do that, churches won't grow, churches will die, and we need to realize, and it's a lot of my generation who don't believe like, oh, they can come into church and get help because of, if I say I have a mental health issue, I won't get help. Or I've been through so much where I may be going crazy, I won't get help. They'll shun me out and say, okay, you got to go somewhere else. You're crazy. You can't come into church because you don't know how to act, in a sense. So if we realize as a church that there are outsiders and insiders that need the help, then we need to figure out how to help them and to help them effectively. So that way, not only as a non-believer, so they can believe, but as humans, we are all human at the end of the day. We cannot turn another human away from help. And so that's what I believe.
Thank you for sharing that. So the thing that you said that really kind of spoke out to me a lot was a charge for the church to learn how to help. I think that that's definitely, even if the pastor or clergy or whoever is there maybe can't necessarily give the full treatment, they know what words to say to get the person in the door, to make the person feel comfortable, and then to do a warm handoff to someone who can help that person help in their continued treatment. So I think that's a really good charge, learn how to help. But that's not an easy task, but it's definitely something that needs to be done. Isaiah, did you have any thoughts around that?
Actually, yes, and mine is from a different angle.
Okay, bring it.
And the angle for mine is I actually dealt with this, and for me, I never had. I'm outgoing, energetic. No, I'm the life. I've never had a suicidal thought at all in my life until the age of 28 when I was locked up in jail. I mean, I tell nobody, it's no secret. I've been in and out of jail since I was 20. In and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. Stupid mistakes. Yes, I made stupid mistakes. But I never had a problem until the age of 28, when that's the actual time when I gave my life to the Lord. And I know the reason why that suicidal thought came on is because of the mission that the Lord had in me. So I know what it's like to sit here and say, I hear voices in my head telling me to kill myself. I heard the voice tell me to take my jumpsuit off, wrap it around my neck, and kill myself because I was no longer wanted. It was at that moment when I dropped into a prayer and I said, God, I said it a million times, but if you get me out, I promise I'm giving my life to you. That was on a Saturday morning. I got out that Saturday night. That Sunday morning, I went to church and I gave my life to the Lord. I've been running ever since. So when it comes to the mental health issue in the church, if we can literally open up and say, yes, I had a moment where I broke down. Yes, I've never had a suicidal thought until such and such happened in my life. And I actually had a suicidal thought. Everybody's not going to handle it the way that I handled it. I understand that. But guess what? You can share with me because I had a suicidal thought as well. I had moments in my head where I said, you know what? Maybe if I put this gun in my head, I could end it all right now. Maybe if I take this jumpsuit off, wrap it around my neck, I could end my life right now. It'll all be over and done with. Yes, I had those encounters. I just knew how to overcome it. And I'm here to help you overcome that as well. Talk to me and I'll tell you all of my story that might help you overcome. You can relate somewhere down the line. Who knows? If you can't relate to me, then guess what? There's somebody else that you can relate to, but just be willing to open up. If we open up within ourselves once again, if we can open up within ourselves, then we can help anybody, because once we get it in ourselves, everything is open to us.
Thank you, Isaiah. Thank you so much for being transparent. You definitely demonstrated what that looks like. Thank you for that. For me, I really wonder at what point in the history of the church we began to demonize specifically mental health and emotional health. Like, right, we don't demonize endocrine issues, endocrinological issues, right? We don't say, oh, you have diabetes, something's wrong with you spiritually, right? We don't demonize that, right? We don't demonize cardiovascular issues. We don't demonize these other things, but somehow, some way, we pick on mental issues and choose to demonize those. Oh, you're sad. Oh, you're depressed. Oh, you're bipolar, whatever. Something is wrong with you and you're not fit to be used by God, question mark. Who came up with that standard? Who decided that that made sense? So you know, where was the committee and who said that that was okay? So I think that it's good for us as cross-generational, right? I think it's great that we are sitting in this time and in this space when so many people need the hands and feet of Christ just to say, you are welcomed here. I don't know what you're going through, or maybe I do know what you're going through, but whatever it is, you too are of value to God. You too will and can be used by God. You too have a place at the table. And so I do feel very passionately about, I do feel like the church has had a little bit better history dealing with emotional issues, a little bit better than mental health issues. Not hugely better, just a little bit better, marginal. But I don't know what the breakdown or what the disconnect is, but I heard what all of you have said. I heard that the church definitely needs to increase transparency. And I even heard Pastor Bunny, you gave some specific ways about having like Zoom calls where people can just talk, or having outlets where people can be heard. I heard, you know, exactly what you were saying, Dom, about the church needs to learn how to be transparent. And Reese, it really spoke out when you were saying that the church needs to change its language. And I feel like that is definitely a simple, easy place for any pastor, any clergy, any church leader to start. If they don't know how to get help, if they don't know how to be the help, just start by using some positive language surrounding the situation. And Isaiah, again, I just want to thank you again for just being very transparent and sharing with that. Hopefully, one of you who are watching, if you have a need, if you have a hurt, please feel free to reach out to Pastor Bunny. Also, she posted a little bit earlier in the week, if you are having suicidal thoughts, there is a national suicide hotline that you can call to speak with someone that can help you in that situation. But we just really want to thank you for taking the time just to tune in with us today and just taking the time just to listen to this conversation. If you are struggling with emotional and mental illness, do not blame yourself. You are not a problem. You are not at fault. If anything, you are a victim, and you do not blame victims here. That is not what we do. That is not what we are about. Seek out help, seek out support. You do not have to walk this path alone. But thank you very much for joining us.